just was in the Women in Reefing end of month, like just a room. And so what they made fun of me. They said, if anybody's going to have technical difficulties, it's Kelly. But guess what? We are live on that note. Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Hope your week has been fabulous. Hope your tanks are doing great. I'm so sorry that you did not see a post about the special guest. There was just complications and he wasn't able to make it. Hopefully he'll be able to come soon, but we're just going to do open chat again tonight. So any questions you have, feel free to ask them away in the comments section and we'll get to answering them. No questions dumb. We like them all. So if you're new, if you're experienced, whatever it is, if you want to show your tanks, just share away. But I did want to ask Cheryl. We were talking right before this, but I wanted to ask her to repeat. Oh, I forgot to say, Pinot Noir acronym, my favorite. It's really good. It's really usually the one I'm drinking. But anyways, back to Cheryl. Miss Cheryl, I saw on Seahorse Sources group that you got some new seahorses. The Queen of Seahorses got new ones. Tell me about it.
Well, Ocean Rider, who I've never ordered from before, has been running some specials on their seahorses. So I decided to order some. That was last week. And last week, they were shipped out on Tuesday. FedEx did not get them to Memphis until Thursday. They were actually put on a plane Thursday night, then taken off, and then they lost the shipment in Memphis.
Oh my gosh.
And then the seahorses, I had 6 different phone calls to FedEx and finally got upset. And they finally arrived Monday.
So, go ahead, I'm listening.
They were in the shipping bag for 7 days. And I went ahead and temperature acclimated them, because I didn't want to do their acclimation procedure, which would cause agitation and instantaneously increase ammonia. So I temperature acclimated them, put them in the tank. And one of the males was courting one of the females today. But in the midst of all this, I'd contacted Ocean Rider. They sent me another shipment on Monday before I received the seahorses. And so I've got a double shipment here. Fortunately, I have a friend that wants them. But it was one of those things where this was not OR's fault. And there's a lot of people on the internet right now that are all over FedEx because they're saying, oh, it's because the flooding there. But it turns out the priorities are things like newspapers and things like that. And they no longer guarantee next day or 2-day delivery anymore.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind.
That's really just such a good thing to hear because, with different seahorse companies and people breeding seahorses, you get, different sorts of reviews. And I'm just really glad to hear that not only did they, Ocean Rider respond to you and make it right away, but then the seahorses made it. I mean, when I saw your pictures, 7 days in shipping and they're bright yellow, what in the heck? Oh my gosh.
Well, they're changing between bright yellow and bright orange.
Be still my heart. I love that. But
they hadn't eaten in the entire time in that bag. They'd had no food. And they were definitely sunk in. Well, they've already, in just a short time I've had them, you can already see where they're filling out and getting round again. And they're eating like little piggies. And they're all over the tank. In fact, but funny side note, I'm used to when I move my own seahorses that I've raised into another tank, I pick them up and just move them to the other tank. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they'll stay hitched to my fingers for several minutes, surveying the new surroundings because they feel safe in my hand. 2 of the seahorses I took out of the bag today from OR stayed hitched to my fingers and surveyed the tank.
Wow, I love it. I just love it. This is, oh, sorry guys, alarm going off. So this is really a good thing to see that, that they're a resource that you can at this point recommend, because that's hard. A lot of people ask, where can we find seahorses? And of course, Seahorse Savvy is amazing. But it's just nice to have a couple of other resources. So, and hearing their deals, now I'm going to go check it out. But
well, I have to say too, I suspect the reason this second shipment came in so fast because it was shipped on Monday and
Yes.
arrived today, which would be normal shipment time. I suspect the folks that run Ocean Rider had some serious words with FedEx that I didn't have with them.
Well, and as Holly, she had to step away, I guess, but we're working on a project we announced last week where she's shipping me my new seahorses, and she got a lot of information about ship out on Monday for sure, because then you're less likely to have over the weekend problems. But
Yeah,
I just think that's so crazy, and I guess it's another point just to say, if something bad does happen, don't consider it a lost cause. Like, I think you said in the post that your instruction was to ship them back. But that was,
right.
I'm guessing, assuming that after 7 days they wouldn't be alive. And they were. So
Exactly.
don't, always check. And,
And
oh, ship.
I
Go ahead.
didn't have the heart to ship them back and subject them to more shipping if I had a chance of saving them. That was my thing. The box was in good condition, it was still cool, and darned if they didn't. So anyway, I ended up with 8 seahorses instead of 4.
Wow. And that's great that you just said that. So if something bad, because I've seen on your post and on other posts that a lot of people have had shipping problems lately, and if you do, and your seahorses take longer than you thought, the key things to check for is the box cool, sorry, and what else is it intact? Is that kind of what you looked at?
Yeah, I looked to me. There was no damage to the box, so it hadn't been kicked around and dropped and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
When I asked the FedEx, can I put my hands on the box felt slightly cooler than my tanks. It was actually about 68 degrees. My tanks were running about 71, 72. And the only actual group or actual person that I know that actually lost her seahorses, when she got her box, it was hot to the touch
Mm.
and it had bad odor. And so she's getting replacements also.
Well, it's
But
just good to hear that they're backing up they're doing things right and taking care of their customers, and that there's hope when the box is still cool. And it sounds like they're excellent shippers because it kind of makes me wonder if they ship them in really cool water. Maybe.
I don't think so because the I think what they're doing is they're just using large bags with a lot of water in them and giving them, oxygenating the bags when they pack them. I, it was an excellent packing job. Even the crazy little shrimp that they send with each shipment, that they send out to people, the red shrimp,
Uh-huh.
all of those were alive.
Wow. Wait, so there's shrimp in the bag. So, well, obviously it's dark. I mean, so are they separate? They're not. Or
They
that
had seahorses in each bag,
okay. And then were the shrimp in the bag with the seahorses?
and the shrimp were in a separate bag, a third
Okay,
bag.
that was my misunderstanding. Okay, I get it now. Well, I'm just so happy to hear that it did work out for you. Um, because yeah, every time I've had seahorses shipped, even from places like Seahorse Source, where I know that they're packaged correctly and that they can survive more than a day, I freak out when the shipping takes longer or there's any kind of connection. And as we were talking about, man, you try to call FedEx or any of these places. I shouldn't single out, but anytime there's shipping problems, you try to call the shipper, they're the facility shipping them, and they're like, it's just you want to strangle them because they're not much help. And I get it, they're not the driver. They can't really give you an answer, and I don't know.
Well,
I
they
don't know.
just it's FedEx used to be the premier quality shipper for overnight and next day delivery for live organisms. But apparently they have run into some problems with, and they also got at one point had the contract for Amazon,
Mhm.
which they don't have anymore. And apparently UPS is the one that's stepping up, which
Nice.
which is what people, I was wondering why people stateside were using UPS. Now I know why.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Ray, I see it. I've got a couple questions in the comments. We'll get to that in just a second. Ray, anything new with you? Anything going on with you lately?
No, just watching my dog try to recover and get used to not having all his teeth.
Right. But he made it. He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing okay, but
Good.
he's he just looks like he's changed from middle age to old age
Mm,
ever since his operation.
mm.
So that's a little bit frustrating, but he has his moments where he livens up somewhat, but maybe just give some more time. It's only been, well, it was 2 weeks ago yesterday, the surgery.
What kind of
So
surgery was it, Ray?
he had most of his teeth removed. The gums got all infected,
Yeah.
and apparently he had lost 8 teeth that I didn't know about. There was 8 missing anyway, and they took out 18. So uh, that, I think that
It's
leaves
got
him
to
with
leave him with a
16.
sore mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
that's for sure. But of the 16 teeth, 2 of them are the front canines. They didn't want to take those out because on small breed dogs, when you take them out, it usually breaks the jaw. And that would have meant I'd have to send them off to University of Guelph and about $3,000 cost to get the jaw rewired. So
Mm,
they didn't take those out. They're hoping that they'll be able to get them to last.
yeah.
But, he's only got, let's see, there's 8 teeth, 4 up and 4 down that match up on the right rear. And there's 1 up and 1 down on the front left. And the others just don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be sore for a while.
Dan says, knock, knock.
Oh,
No,
here,
knock, knock.
here comes. Here I come. Here it comes. Sorry. Thank you, Ray, for paying attention. And I just wanted to really quickly jump to Seahorse Corner said Ocean Rider also fast them, I believe, before shipping to reduce ammonia. I know that is a trick with shipping. They also have lower salinity, so they drink less and pee less in an ammonia blocker like Prime. Right. That's, some people use it, some people don't. I always did. When I would ship seahorses, I used Prime and did the fasting and did everything you're talking about. But now that Dan's jumped in, I definitely want to ask Dan and Holly how they're doing. But I'm curious, um, are we surprised that seahorses that were likely fasted before shipping and then were in a bag for 7 days were okay? I mean, like, that's, is it just a fluke, or did she get lucky, or is that
I'm
you're not
not,
surprised?
not at all.
Cheers to that.
You remember that when they're in the box, it's dark
Hmm.
and they're basically going dormant and they're not burning a lot of energy. They're sitting there. The record that I know of is 12 days in a box that did fine, but it's not uncommon to see them, a few days with no problem. You will expect to see some weight loss as described, but assuming the box wasn't jostled around too much, they're not overstressed, they should be able to do okay. Different story if they're left on the tarmac in the middle of the summer or in the middle of the winter. But if they were kept properly, I wouldn't expect it to be. Of course, you're going to be nervous opening a box, but I would expect them to survive.
So cool. I mean, that's just good news. I'm just happy to hear that they are okay, and that people. I was saying earlier that if they're like 10 minutes late, I'm freaking out. But it's good to know you don't have to, because when people do ship them properly, they're going to be all right. Very good. Um, Dan, anything new that you wanted to share? Anything going on? Open chat tonight.
No, not really.
Okay. Well, we're glad to.
Can you use darkness as a treatment maybe for a seahorse that isn't eating anyway, and to give time for the medications in the tank to start working? Can you have it in total darkness and in just a small volume so it can't move around? And maybe then it'll shut down its system a bit to wait out, and then the meds maybe start working and then get it to start eating again after.
You don't have to go to a smaller tank, and you don't have to go to total darkness. Just keeping it dark, they'll be much less active.
Yeah.
It's a strategy we use during hurricanes where
Oh, we lost you, Dan. Your voice cut out.
on the day and all the lights off. And got me.
Yes, you're back. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
It may have been me.
But anyway, just darkening everything up, they become dormant and hitch. And I say dormant, they're hitching and being still. Um, so, we've done that every storm that we've had.
Absolutely. I just think it's great. I mean, I was just, the feeding thing is or the not eating for so long is what always catches me. And, guys, just because they can survive this way, if something goes wrong, we still definitely don't want to feed less or anything. It's just that they can survive it, right? Um, anyways, Miss Holly, before I do jump to the questions, anything new with you? Anything you wanted to chit chat about?
Nope, not especially.
She's like,
I'm ready.
Kelly, are you ready for your
Get,
seahorses yet?
yep, get ready to send you your seahorses. You said Monday.
Yeah,
I can
either
send
this
them out
Monday or next, right?
Monday. Okay, I think they'll be ready.
Can you ship on Monday? On the,
Yeah.
because of the holiday?
Oh,
Oh,
right.
is it? Yeah. So maybe the following Monday. Then I forgot about that.
That'll give me more time just to, be sure, be safe, anyway, so that's fine.
What's the
Okay.
holiday?
Isn't this Easter weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Easter
right, but Monday should
following
be a
Monday.
normal business day for FedEx or the mail.
Oh, here we don't even get mail on Monday.
No, it
Well,
should
on
be a
my
normal business day.
calendar, it says Easter Monday, Canada. So maybe that's a Canadian thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess our holidays aren't always treated the same as what yours are.
Likewise.
Yep, exactly.
But
I
either
always,
way, I can wait another week for you, Kelly, if you want me to.
well, we'll figure it out. It would be
Okay.
probably better, but if I'm feeling real confident, we'll talk on the side. But
All right.
guys, Gallo, I'm gonna butcher the name, so I'm just not gonna do it. Gallo has asked, are there seahorses, pipefish breeders that ship to Puerto Rico? Do we know any? Does Ocean Rider?
The, Puerto Rico is in the United States or considered a territory of the United States. So seahorses can be shipped there without a CITES permit. However, there's logistical issues in shipping. And I never did it despite multiple requests. I don't know if Alyssa does it or not. I would be surprised if she does. And I'd be surprised if Ocean Rider does because that's probably not just a 24-hour shipment, but at least a 48-hour shipment to go to Puerto Rico.
So it's just like the shipping time and
Yeah, and it's also expensive. I mean, you're
Mm.
talking about, sending a FedEx package to Puerto Rico. It's going to be a lot more money than elsewhere in the United States.
Can't be worse than me bringing them in from Australia to Canada.
right.
Yeah, also keep in mind though, when you're shipping, that they cannot sell any seahorses in Hawaii, which a lot of people don't realize. It's illegal for them to sell them to private parties anywhere on the islands.
I don't think that's the case. I know that's their policy, but I don't know that it's illegal because all the shops sell seahorses.
Hmm.
They that's interesting because I was just told flat out, and maybe it's something that's becoming a recent change since they banned the export of indigenous fish, but they cannot sell anywhere in Hawaii anymore.
Well, that's been their policy ever since I've known of their
Mm.
existence.
I read something just recently about that, and it wasn't from Ryder, it was some other article. And it made that statement too, that they weren't allowed to sell any to people on the island.
Hmm.
Well, I know they're really cracking down. Like you can no longer the Hawaiian tangs and fish like that that are indigenous to that area can no longer be captured or sold. They're really cracking down on some of that.
Yeah, I think there was a recent ordeal with the ban. I know there was. I just don't know. I don't remember the details. But you're saying they're still in the shops, though? Dan, you think, or no?
Yeah, I've had customers call me and talk to them where they bought seahorses in the local shops.
Huh?
Interesting.
It
Now, the
very.
shops, of course, have to get the seahorses, from the states. But in fact, a lot of the fish stores get a lot of their stuff from the states. But
Mhm.
um, Ocean Rider has long held the policy that they would not sell to anybody in Hawaii, only in to the mainland in the U.S.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, kind of jumping around here, guys, but I see you've gotten some responses. But Dylan's little hobbies asked, "I'm trying to get my exenia to grow. It started looking for new. Oh, it started looking for new rocks, so I got a new rock put right above it. Should I put it by the base of the coral or leave it where it is sitting above the coral?" Um, and Salty said, "Let it sit; it will spread." Right. Actually, though, I know people who can't keep Xenia. Just I don't know why. I think it doesn't ship well. I don't know, but I've never had trouble either. They take over tanks for me too, Salty. I'm right there with you. But Dylan's, let us know how it goes. Like in a couple of weeks. How long have you had it? I'm curious. And the Seahorse Corner
I
said,
made more money selling Xenia than I did ever selling seahorses.
"Really?
I used to pile rock rubble around the Xenia and just slightly higher because they have a tendency to go upwards. I've never seen it move downwards,
Hmm.
but as it wants to go up, then with all this rock rubble, they would move off and shift onto the rubble. Then I could take the pieces of rubble, take them to the store and sell them there to him, and he'd turn around and sell them to his customers.
Very cool. Very good idea. I guess that was already answered, but glad we said it publicly because I don't think the comments show up on Facebook. But yeah, very cool. I mean, with Xenia too, it's like love or hate. Some people love it. Obviously, Ray sold the heck out of it. Dylan's is trying to get it to grow. I liked it too, but
It is a weed,
yeah, it's a weed. It can take over for
just
sure.
like green star polyps.
Yes, agreed. Um, the Seahorse Corner said, Cheryl, I wonder if the hitching is because they have tours and they let people hold the seahorses and let them hitch on their fingers. I found the same thing with mine. Really good point. I wonder if the tours, the seahorses that are on the Ocean Rider tours are the same that they sell, right? Or is it separate?
Oh, they have it. They're using, if you look at their videos and stuff, they're using large adults in the tanks that they're using
Hmm.
for people that are holding them. I don't know what their entire breeding operation is, but it appears they have a finite number that they use specifically in the large tubs for that, for that exhibit.
Well, still, I mean, I see your point though, Seahorse Corner, I mean, that's probably how they care for them. I'm sorry, the stupid alarm. So yeah, social means they've been social. So socially cared for. Gotcha. Um, but yeah, very cool point. And lots of Xenia talk. Sorry if I missed your question. You guys always can ask again, of course. And all right. So what else? Oh, I had a question. As I said before I jumped in here, the reason I was a couple minutes late is because we in the Women in Reefing group we had we have a end of the month room, like the group rooms, where it's no topic, just if you want to jump in if you got a question kind of thing. And I was in that room right before this, and one of the members was talking about she had kept seahorses many years ago for over a year and a half, and it was two females, no males, and she kept them properly, oversized filtration. Like, I mean, she answered all the questions correctly, and then after a year and a half, the way she described it was the female's tail like swelled up, and I instantly thought internal GBD. Is that what you guys would instantly think?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Have
Well,
they figured out? Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
describe it to me again.
Okay, so after a year and a half of keeping two female seahorses who were doing well, and like the person that was keeping them had oversized filtration. I mean, like every box was checked as far as like my questions. And then after a year and a half, one of the female's tails seemed to swell. The tail, the whole tail. Go ahead.
Okay, so a swollen tail doesn't necessarily mean gas bubble disease. You need to first look and see if we're talking edema or if we're talking a bubble. And if we're talking a bubble, we need to determine if the seahorse has buoyancy issues because even a small bubble will create buoyancy issues with the tail. It could be a fluid fill bubble, which would indicate something entirely different. But I have seen seahorses with swollen tails where it was strictly from edema, secondary to an infection.
Wow.
So there's multiple things that it could be for that given brief description.
Well, I'm sorry, I should have added a little bit more. The Seahorse did have buoyancy issues, so that leads us in that direction a little bit.
Yep.
But she didn't say bubbles. She acted like the entire tail was swollen, and it was a female. So I mean, it's not anything we can solve now. This was years ago, but I just wondered if we've come closer to like what we would say to treat that these days.
Well, it would depend because if
Right.
there's bubbles on the tail, that would be one scenario. But, if the whole tail is swollen, then I'm suspecting the body of the seahorse has probably got some swelling as well. And you could have, some type of a bladder issue going on with a bacterial issue.
Gotcha. And the edema, it's like I feel like I know what that means, but it's
Swelling. Edema is
swelling.
another
Okay.
word for
Oh
swelling.
yeah, my legs. Right. I knew that. Okay. Sorry.
Well,
Wine.
usually edema is fluid filled in most cases.
Gotcha. Well, I just felt terrible because I hate hearing those stories, and I feel like we hear less of them these days, but just bummed me out. But anyways,
I think tail problems can be one of the hardest things to decide how to treat because there's so many possible
right.
causes.
Mhm.
And it's like the people that thought that they had a problem with ciliates on seahorse tails, and in reality they had a bacterial infection with tail rot.
Yep.
And it can be very hard to diagnose.
Absolutely.
You're going
That's
to
why
have even
it's
more problems in treatments because you're going to probably end up like we are here in Canada, where you're not going to be able to get anything to treat them with.
Right. What were you gonna say, Dan?
uh, that's why it's critical to have somebody who's skilled in dealing with these type of issues and somebody who knows how to diagnose.
Right.
You know, the description that you gave, for example, we'll often see posted on the boards, and it's not enough information to real. And too often people try to jump in, and because they had an issue that was what they
Similar.
thought similar to that one, they immediately offer advice, and um, you're it's very difficult when you can't examine the patient, when you can't talk to the patient, and everything is third or fourth party coming to you to really drill down to what's going on, and it takes a lot of questions to get there.
Sure, and just for the record, I didn't give any advice at that point. It was just casual conversation. I was just curious if my real question, because I agree with you 100%. It takes really diving in and figuring it out. And this wasn't an emergency. This was just something she was talking about years past. I just wondered if we have figured out how to treat internal GBD, even if that wasn't her problem. Has there been any successes in figuring out how to treat that?
The correct answer, not really.
Yeah.
um, the problem is that the first thing you have to understand is whether or not it's truly internal gas issues or is it an air bladder issue. um, we still don't fully understand um, the cause of gas bubble disease. And most of the time, gas bubble, and I emphasize bubble disease, is there's a bubble with gas. Um, when it's internal, we don't know where it is and what's causing it. And um, it's still very, very much experimental when it comes to treatment.
Well, it's also like if you have a female with a swollen torso, is she egg bound? Does she have gas bubble disease? Does she have a bacterial infection? You really don't know.
Sure. I mean, and that's
Unless
that's
she's
the only.
floating.
Sorry, that's the only thing that I said. Is that you know that's something very difficult to deal with because she had said she had tried probiotics and all these other things, and I said, all I really said was don't beat yourself up because even the best, it happened. We don't know what's going on with that stuff. So if that is what it was, just don't beat yourself up is all I could
The,
say because
the best thing you can say is if you've got a gas bubble problem, there's going to be floating involved. But beyond that, what else?
right. And with males, it's usually the pouch. You can figure, you can pouch evacuation, but females, that's a tough one. Anyways, I just wondered. I was just wondering if I could have said anything or thought of anything better um, in the conversation. But hey, oh, not to veer to another topic, guys, but open chat, I actually did follow through and did the Zoom with Deborah. And Deborah is a person living in the UK that is keeping sea dragons successfully for 2.5 years. And she walked me through her system. I'll be sharing that video soon. It was so cool. I was so excited. And it's like, it just makes me wonder, it takes someone dedicated that's going to set up the equipment and set up the thing, set it up properly to care for such a unique needs creature or fish. But that's kind of how people said what people said years ago about seahorses, right? I mean, they said, "Oh yeah, that's too difficult," and then a few people succeeded, and then people like Dan, Cheryl, and Ray, started figuring things out, and now they're, I don't want to say easy to keep, but they're definitely not hard anymore. So, do you guys think? Obviously, like I said, it takes people willing to put the money in to set up properly, but I was surprised that people were able to keep sea dragons, hobbyists. I mean,
Well, she's an above average hobbyist.
right, true. Still, they're cool. They're gorgeous. I wish I could do it. I'm so jealous. But you don't see it happening more and more in the future?
Oh, eventually, I suspect to the point of availability, but to do it correctly is extremely expensive. So I don't expect to see, what scares me in this scenario is that people that don't have the money and try to do it cheap and they buy them and put them in something that's not suitable and don't take proper care. That's what bothers me with that.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
guys. Trying to turn this
money
stuff
wouldn't be a problem, but I think my age would limit me.
right. Well, that's the one thing, like I'm not trying to at all tell people, yeah, yeah, go do it. They're great. And in the video, she walks through her extensive, I mean, like two shed full, with plumbing between walls kind of filtration and well, you'll see when the video comes out, but it's just cool to me that it can be done. And I think it's really cool that she was able to get the information from Steve, by talking with him and set up properly. I just think it's so awesome that she was able to succeed. Like when she said 2.5 years, I was like, whoa, how cool. I mean, wow. But anyways, just thought I'd
Well,
mention that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also remember the ones that she's got, unless I'm mistaken, are true captive breds that she got from Australia. And as such, I know in my own experience working with seahorses, after you get past that first generation, typically your next generation is going to be easier to work with. So she's kind of got a head start because she's not dealing with wild caughts,
Sure.
What's
which
their
is
life
wonderful.
expectancy?
Sorry, Ray, what?
What's their life expectancy?
Oh, heck, I don't know.
I don't
Anybody?
think we know.
Uh, guess we'll find out, eh? But
Yeah, I would suspect it's going to be somewhere similar or longer than seahorses, but
Mhm.
I mean, we already know that seahorses can live much longer than we ever thought they could. Um, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's 10, 15 years. I know people who've had them for 5 and 6 years. Um, and if
sure.
it, if in the beginning people keep them 5 or 6 years, that tells me that we could do much better, much longer if we do the care better.
Well, yeah, and I mean, public aquariums keep them for. I'd have to ask, like Paula. I don't know exactly, but they keep them a long time, right? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know the stats and the numbers, so I'd be speaking out of place to begin to guess.
sure. Me too. That's why I don't know. And Ichtha Yo Stuff put his seahorses on Cato. Cool. And let's see. Ah, Gallo was asking again, about are there breeders from Florida or the East Coast that they could ask, and Dan answered Seahorse Savvy. Yep. And Dylan, you've only had the Xenia for 3 weeks. Yeah, I would. I mean, Ray apparently is the hidden Xenia expert, so I would do what he said because I don't
I
have any
don't think it
tricks.
takes an expert to grow Xenia.
Right. But I'm telling you, I know many people who struggle with it. It's just like Zoas or whatever. Some people think they're the easiest thing in the world, and others are like, just can't grow it. So I don't know the tricks, but
Well, I'm
did,
glad that it grew the way that it did, because between that and the green star polyps, it kept me buying corals all the time. I had lots of money, just from those sales, just to get the things that I wanted. And I was getting rid of something that I didn't want.
Sure.
I could kill either one of those in a matter of days. Trust me.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just GSP and Zinnia and I do not get along.
Oh.
See, we have a person
Well,
who
that's
can't
why I
keep it
was
right
selling
here.
them. I didn't like them either.
Cheryl, what do you think happens? It just
I think at that point in time when I was doing when I actually had some of that stuff around, I was not using adequate lighting, first of all. Second of all, in the tank that was in, I had a big bryopsis outbreak that came in with the rock that I was given for the tank. It was not set up as a Seahorse tank. And then I also ended up having to get, what was it? Anyway, one of the algae scavengers to clean up some of the bryopsis and stuff. And I suspect from watching it, it was also munching on some of the corals that were in that tank. So I think it was a combination of factors.
sure. Yeah, no, makes sense. What did you get to eat bryopsis? I'm curious.
They're
You can't
short, they're
remember?
squat.
Sorry.
They hug the ground. They have fins on the sides, look like little wings. What was that?
Anybody?
I'm going back years ago.
No matter, no matter. It's fine. I just wondered because that's a problem a lot of people have all the time. But no, I hear you. And definitely when you get one of those
These are ones that don't live very long.
I'm not sure, but anyways, when you get an algae in the tank that's more like a simple, fast grower, it's gonna outcompete, yeah, like everything else and destroy everything. I hate that. I hate nuisance algae, but anyways, let's see. Congrats on the channel
Even
live streams.
Symposium will do that.
What'd you say?
Symposium will also take over a tank, just like GSP or Vinny or some of those.
Sure. And salty.
The only difference, Symposium is blue.
Right, and it's pretty. I really like it, but yeah, the coral we're talking or the weeds we're talking about definitely can take over. And some people, Salty is said, I can't grow GSP to save my life, but he can grow acros. I mean, go figure. You just never know. And I do want to mention that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cheryl.
They may have something that's eating the GSP. They may have something to do with their temp or the lighting. Acros need very high lighting. GSP does not.
Right.
And if you're going to have GSP in a tank with acros, you're probably going to want it on the very bottom under a ledge.
Placement and lighting, everything, absolutely. And Seahorse Corner said, doesn't Todd R sell to locals? I know OR does not though. But who's Todd R? Do we know, or should we not say? I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, is that Todd Ragsdale? Is that her? Anyways, okay. Gallo, thank you. Yeah, we try really hard to get great guests in here, and sometimes open chats, all over the place, and sometimes it's really informative. But we're always here every week for you to ask questions. Doesn't matter what they are. We're here to try to help answer them. And salty reef, yeah, combination of too much flow and low nutrients, yeah. But just as comparison, like I said earlier, zoas. I know people who keep really dirty tanks, like really dirty tanks, and the zoas don't thrive. So it's a combo. Definitely a great combo of things. But hey Holly, what ended up anything new with the seahorses that you did sell? Are they doing well?
Yeah, they're doing great. He sends me pictures every now and then, and he's impressed with their little personalities and things, that just he didn't know about them. So they found their dish right away. He was stoked on that. And yeah, he did some aquascaping for them, made them a nice house, with stuff they enjoy. And yeah, they're doing really well.
Yeah, I need to get your care sheet up because I think it's really good. And Dan, question for you. Since I'm not usually a dish feeder, like I did with a few tanks, I'd have like really DIY, like we're talking clip with a plastic bowl kind of dish. But I don't usually use feeders. If you get seahorses that have been trained on feeders, is it any kind of difficulty to, if you're not I mean, I don't mind just using a dish, but I'm just asking, is it hard if they're trained a certain way?
I don't think I think it's easier to feed them if they're trained to a dish by broadcast feeding than it is to go from broadcast feeding to a dish.
Makes sense.
Um, you know, it's more restrictive, so it's going to be a little, could be a little tougher. Not necessarily. I mean, I've seen seahorses take to the dish instantly, and I've seen seahorses that just absolutely refuse to go to the dish.
Is that species
And
based
mine
or?
eat all the ways. They'll eat anyway. I target feed mine, I broadcast feed them, and they have a dish, and they're fine with all the different ways.
Oh, I'm not worried about your seahorses. I know they're strong and hardy, and they'll be fine. I
But I
just was asking for the
think it
channel.
could be pretty easy. They love food. I mean, they're not hard, I don't think,
Well, the key
to.
there is that they've had a lot of individual interaction with you, and
Mhm.
that's going to be a whole lot different than say if I have 6 or 7 thousand seahorses that I don't interact as much with. Um, and by the same token, if you get some that
Mhm.
are wild or from other places, you know, they won't always react the same way. Um, and
Yeah,
I do think it makes a big difference with having a small batch and being able to interact with them. You're going to see a different type of results when it comes to interactions such as feeding.
yeah.
You
'Cause
know,
they
though,
know they're feeding it outside the tank. They'll see it sitting like next to the tank or whatever. They know.
what was it Dan
Yeah.
said all the time? If you walk past with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they're looking for a
Oh
fight.
yeah. No,
Yep.
if I eat next to them, they're curious about what I have.
Sorry for jumping around, but when you said that, I remembered one of the things that Deborah did share is that the sea dragons got fascinated with her cat. Like they just, anytime the cat is anywhere near the tank, they are like, "What is that? That's so cool." I just think it's so cool. But anyways, no, and I'll tell you this too about yeah, I agree, Dan. When you have a smaller batch and you're more hands on, or they interact with you one on one versus so many, it's going to be different. But little Cheryl, the first seahorse that I got to survive, which was obviously very hands on because she was the only one in her batch that survived. And she was the moodiest little seahorse that I've ever had. I mean, she was just like, queen bee type stuff, not the total opposite of, hey, I'm cool, I'm friendly. I swear they have personalities. I don't know what does it, but maybe I did something that she really didn't like. Who knows? But Cheryl, you were nodding. Do you see that?
Now what?
I just said, have had seahorses that are just like moody like that?
Every seahorse that I have really spent a lot of time with is different from every other one.
Yeah.
And they each had their own personalities, their own. It's like the one that trained me to feed her in the back corner because she didn't want to compete with the other seahorses. And she had me trained very well until I figured out that she had me trained.
Yeah, they train you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where they're all a little different and they're all going to have some different strategies and their survival strategies that they're going to test. And that's in part why they have a tendency to learn things very well.
Yep. And Charity, I just saw your question. I'm going to ask it after this one. But I was curious because the story, I know I'm hopping around, guys. Sorry, open chat. But the story I told earlier about the person whose female had two females and one female got sick. The second female kind of, I don't want to say wasted away, but kind of just didn't last much longer. Are, are we okay with saying that seahorses are very like social and they need to be together, like they need to be more than one? Would you guys agree with that statement?
I think seahorses are basically very social and have strong social interactions. Uh, However, if you've got one female that's hanging back, one, is there something medically wrong with her? Two, is she being intimidated by a larger female? Or it's like with my female that I was feeding in the back corner, she would not come out to eat with the other youngsters in the tank until they had all finished eating and left her no food, which is why I started feeding her in the back of the tank. And she was obviously totally intimidated because she was smaller than everybody else.
Mm,
And
yeah.
again, she ultimately grew into a normal seahorse, but it took her a while.
Absolutely, and that's so important to be observant and make sure that they are all eating. I can't agree more. But I'm in the situation I was talking about. If you have two seahorses and something happens to one of them, is it likely that the second and final seahorse, once they are alone in the tank, will still do okay, or should it be a goal to get like a replacement? Obviously, we've talked about this before, and Dan has been really clear. You want to make sure that whatever's wrong isn't still wrong before you add any more seahorses. But can one seahorse in a tank do okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, having said that, the problem is that we still don't know enough. And here's another area that we could do a little research, is that sometimes when they lose a tank mate, it's very clear they go into a slump or a depression or what have you. And do they end up perishing or not doing well because of that, or is it a case that there's the disease is they're fighting the disease too, or whatever the ailment was?
Yeah.
Um, you know, I know of too many people that have individual seahorses in a tank to say they can't do okay by their own, but the interactions and the joy of watching them is manyfold better when there's two to interact than there is with just having one.
Sure. And you made a key observation or a key point that, you know, one seahorse that starts out as one seahorse is different than a seahorse that loses their partner, or, whether it be a partner or partner in crime, whatever, I do think they get depressed. Not saying that it would be the end of the world, and you do need to be careful, but I just wondered. Okay, Charity, welcome. Charity asked, and don't worry, Charity, it's open chat, so any questions, shoot them at us for sure. She could really use some help with getting baby off Artemia and on mysis. Any advice? So can we chat a little bit about weaning, I'm guessing Fry, onto mysis from Artemia?
Be persistent.
Yeah.
Don't give up. So my best advice.
I usually, with erectus, I'll usually start them at about 6 weeks. And basically, I always feed it as first feeding at each meal when they're the hungriest. And I go back and sit down on the couch and do something else because they're going to figure it out. I don't. I used to panic when I was first starting. Anymore, I'm confident that they are going to figure it out. And once a couple start taking it, the whole darn lot of them are going to start eating it. And they're
Yeah,
going
but
to
how much time?
seahorse see, seahorse do.
Right, you're not wrong. Go ahead, Dan.
You should.
Level level of confidence will have a whole lot to do with success here. And it's just like getting, adults trained to frozen as well. Um, it takes persistence. It takes a little bit of tough love. If you give them a little bit of food, hold off on giving them the live food. And if you wait too long, it becomes more difficult. Somewhere around the 6 week mark is when you should start trying to do that. Um, if somebody's trying to do that at 12 weeks, they've kept them on Artemia the whole time, but they've already stunted their growth, and they're going to have a much more difficult time to get them on frozen than where the natural progression is to go to larger foods. The other thing that's helpful is sometimes to shave the food. The other thing that can be helpful is using live foods, whether it be mices or adult brine shrimp, to get them used to eating larger particles. Um, and then, of course, the other thing is that when you're converting them over to frozen food, you want to do small amounts in the tank, and then if they don't eat it, then you want to vacuum it up afterwards.
Absolutely. And you just unpacked so many good points. And I think, Ray, is it you that talks about the making sure they're hungry, like feeding them in the morning? I can't remember if it was you or maybe not. Okay, well, maybe it was me. How about that? Anyways,
I
so
do that.
I don't know if I can be heard.
you can be heard now.
Can you
What's
hear
up?
me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, because I was getting a message flashing on my screen here saying that my mic wasn't working.
Oh, sorry. Well, we can hear you. What were you saying?
Anyway, yeah. Well, I was just going to reply to what you said, except that now I forgot what it was.
I just asked, aren't you the person that talks about keep making sure that they're hungry? So, like introducing the frozen foods, like not feeding them Artemia first thing in the morning, instead feeding them frozen. It might not have been you, but I thought it was.
No, no, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Cheryl said it a moment ago, but it always makes sense. The hungrier you are, the more likely you are to eat anything.
Yeah.
That is how I do it, Kelly. I find they're more likely to take it if there's less live artemia in the tank. I found.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
sure.
don't
Making
want
I
any
sure.
just
baby
mix
brine shrimp
them
there.
together. I do it a few different ways. I'll start, like you said, like in the morning when there's hardly any live artemia in there. I'll start with the frozen, and then a little later I'll mix it with the live artemia, so they might eat some by accident, and I just keep giving it to them, all day long and sucking up, what they don't eat, and eventually, like Cheryl said, they just catch on. You just have to be persistent and just keep feeding it.
I do tough love anymore. You're getting only shaved mysis first thing in the morning when you're the hungriest. And until you start eating some of that, you're not getting anything else. And it doesn't take them long because hunger is going to be a driving force. And once one or two start taking it, the rest of them will follow very rapidly.
Cheryl's cracking the whip.
But I never used to be that way. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't that way when I first started. I used to hover over them and
Or you
die a
feel
thousand deaths.
sorry.
Now I know they're going to do it.
You
Yeah,
feel
they're going to figure it
sorry.
out.
They're starving. I will give them their life.
I'm so hard.
but wait, no, seriously, guys, because I'll admit, so Charity, if you're this way, don't feel bad because I was a hoverer and I was like, oh my God, if they're not taking it, I have to feed them. So with tough love, how long would you go though, Cheryl? I understand that in your case, they always just end up taking it. But if it's been a
Yeah,
whole day or something,
the first 3 days, I give them about 30 minutes with the frozen. Then I add some live. After the first 3 days, I start lengthening that time, and I ultimately, when you normally by the time I'm at about 45 minutes post addition of the frozen, they have figured out that frozen is really quite
Mhm.
good. And so I just gradually keep extending the time before they get what they want. I don't know, Dan, how do you do that?
I would say something similar. You know, it is ideal to give it to them without having the live food swimming around. But the way that we do it is the first meal is the critical one, where we make sure we give the frozen first, wait a little bit, vacuum up the food, put the live artemia in. But then, we were feeding anywhere from 5 to 7 times a day. So with each feeding, before we would give the baby brine shrimp, we would offer a little bit of frozen food. And, it got to the point to where it was not a conscious, really a big conscious deal for us. It was just something we had to do, and it was part of our normal task that we really didn't think much about it when it came to converting. We just did it.
gotcha. Well, I just want to say again, Charity, I feel you because when you're not as experienced and don't have the confidence yet, it's really difficult to do that tough love stuff because, man, especially
Yeah, it's really
especially if
tough because yeah,
what'd you say?
it's just really tough when you're first starting out because you've already worked so hard to get them to this stage.
Yep.
And then you're afraid if you don't give them the live food, they're going to starve.
Mm-hmm.
So you're motivated to add more live food when you really need to be backing off on the live food. And that's something you as a person you have to learn.
True.
And it takes some practice.
Yep. Salty, I saw you did try to join and lost audio. To be honest, if you guys see me making funny faces, like, it's because it's something's going on. Maybe it's my internet. I don't know, but something's
No,
going on. Go ahead, Dan.
I'm getting it too.
Okay, where it's like freezing up and stuff.
Yeah.
So not sure. I'm sorry. You can feel free to try again. I probably won't have this go on much longer since we are having some freezing up issues. But if you want to join, try to do it now. And I'm sorry that it's not working out. Well, I guess it's gonna. We didn't have the guest tonight because not sure what's going on, but definitely. Salty too. Also, looking for actually I'll message you after the show because looking for ideas and set up advice about the seahorse tank I'm setting up, so I'll message you on the side. But Charity, I hope that that did help you as far as weaning the fry, because I'm right there with you. They can say tough love all they want. It's hard when they're your little babies and they're your first babies, and or even not your first. You just don't want to um, and I'm like that with my kids too. I'm an enabler. Terrible, but I'm working on it. Tough love. Got it. Um, anyways, anything else, guys? Because I feel bad that it's freezing, but I want to make sure everybody gets to chat or say anything they wanted to share. Cheryl, keep us updated with your new beauties. Oh, that's a question I wanted to ask you, Cheryl. Aside from them just having good prices, you've got different species, you're breeding, you're doing all these things. What made you decide to get new seahorses? And she froze. Are you back? No. Okay, guys. I am going to call it for tonight. Apologies, but I'm not sure why it's freezing up. I'm so sorry. Cheryl, you back? Nope. Okay. Well, I apologize. I'll try to look into whatever's going on, or it could just be tonight. It should show live slowly over. Give them more frozen or cut off. Only no going back. Right. So not sure what's going on, but thanks, Dylan, for the thoughts, and I'll look into it. But I just want to thank Ray, Cheryl, Dan, and Holly for joining me tonight, and I want to thank all of you who came to the comment section. Charity, good luck. Keep us updated. Go to Seahorse Sources group and let us know how you're doing in the future. So, all right, everybody, say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
They unfroze to say bye. There you go. Thanks for coming, guys. See you next week. Cheers.